Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 1. And now, Israel, listen carefully to these decrees and regulations that I am about to teach you. Obey them so that you may live, so you may enter and occupy the land that the Lord, the God of your ancestors, is giving you. Verse 2. Do not add to or subtract from these commands I'm giving you. Just obey the commands of the Lord your God that I am giving you. Verse 3. You saw for yourself what the Lord did to you at Baal-peor. There the Lord your God destroyed everyone who had worshipped Baal, the god of Peor. Verse 4. All of you who were faithful to the Lord your God are still alive today, every one of you. Verse 5. Look, I now teach you these decrees and regulations, just as the Lord my God commanded me, so that you may obey them in the land you are about to enter and occupy. Verse 6. Obey them completely, and you will display your wisdom and intelligence among the surrounding nations. When they hear of these decrees, they will exclaim, how wise and prudent are the people of this great nation. Verse 7. For what great nation has a God as near to them as the Lord your God is near to us whenever we call on him? Verse 8. And what great nation has decrees and regulation as righteous and fair as this body of instruction that I am giving you today? Verse 9. But watch out, be careful never to forget what you yourself have seen. Do not let these memories escape from your mind as long as you live, and be sure to pass them to your children and grandchildren. Verse 10. Never forget the day when you stood before the Lord your God at Mount Sinai, where he told me, summon the people before me, and I will personally instruct them. Then they will learn to fear me as long as they live, and they will teach their children to fear me also. Verse 11. You came near and stood at the foot of the mountain, where flames from the mountain shoot into the sky. The mountains was shrouded in black clouds and deep darkness. Verse 12. And the Lord spoke to you from the heart of the fire. You heard the sound of his words, but didn't see his form. There was only a voice. Verse 13. He proclaimed his covenant, the 10 commandments, which he commanded you to keep, and which he wrote on 2 stone tablets. Verse 14. It was at that time that the Lord commanded me to teach you his decrees and regulations, so you would obey them in the land you are about to enter and occupy. Verse 15. But be very careful, you did not see the Lord's form on that day. He spoke to you from the heart of the fire at Mount Sinai. Verse 16. Do not corrupt yourselves by making an idol in any form, whether of man or a woman. Verse 17. An animal on the ground, a bird in the sky. Verse 18. A small animal that scurries along the ground, or a fish in the deepest sea. Verse 19. And when you look up into the sky and see the sun, moon, and stars, all the forces of heaven, don't be seduced into worshipping them. The Lord your God gave them to all the people of the earth. Verse 20. Remember that the Lord rescued you from the iron smelting furnace of Egypt in order to make you his very own people and his special possession, which is what you are today. Verse 21. But the Lord was angry with me because of you. He vowed that I will not cross the Jordan River into the good land the Lord your God is giving to you as your special possession. Verse 22. You will cross the Jordan to occupy the land, but I will not. Instead, I will die here on the east side of the river. Verse 23. So be careful not to break the covenant the Lord your God has made with you. Do not make idols of any shape or form, for the Lord your God has forbidden this. Verse 24. The Lord your God is a devouring fire. He is a jealous God. Verse 25. In the future, when you have children and grandchildren and have lived in the land a long time, do not corrupt yourselves by making idols of any kind. This is evil in the sight of the Lord your God, and he will arouse his anger. Verse 26. Today I call on heaven and earth as witness against you. If you break my covenant, You will quickly disappear from the land you are crossing the Jordan to occupy. You will live there only a short time. Then you will be utterly destroyed. Verse 27, for the Lord will scatter you among the nations, where only a few of you will survive. Verse 28, there in a foreign land you will worship idols made from wood and stone, gods that neither see, nor hear, nor eat, nor smell. Verse 29, but from there you will search again for the Lord your God, and if you search for him with all your heart and soul, you will find him. Verse 30, in the distant future, when you are suffering all these things, you will finally return to the Lord your God and listen to what he tells you. Verse 31, for the Lord your God is a merciful God. He will not abandon you or destroy you or forget the solemn covenant he made with your ancestors. Verse 32, now search all of history from the time God created people on earth until now, and search from one end of heavens to the other. Has anything as great as this ever been seen or heard before? Verse 33, has any nation ever heard the voice of God speaking from fire as you did and survived? Verse 34, has any other God dared to make a nation for himself out of another nation by means of trials, miraculous signs, wonders, war, a great hand, a powerful arm, and terrifying acts? Yet that is what the Lord your God did for you in Egypt, right before your eyes. Verse 35, he showed you these things so you would know that the Lord is God and there is no other. Verse 36, he let you hear his voice from heaven so he could instruct you. He let you see his great fire here on earth so he could speak to you from it. Verse 37, because he loved your ancestors, he chose to bless their descendants, and he personally brought you out of Egypt with a great display of power. Verse 38, he drove out nations far greater than you, so he could bring you in and give you their land as a special possession, as it is today. Verse 39, so remember this and keep it firmly in mind. The Lord is God, both in heaven and on earth, and there is no other. Verse 40, if you obey all his decrees and commands I am giving you today, and you all will be well with you and your children. I am giving you these instructions so you will enjoy a long life in the land the Lord your God is giving you all for all time. Verse 41, then Moses set apart 3 cities of refuge east of the Jordan River. Verse 42, anyone who killed another person unintentionally without previous hostility could flee there to live in safety. Verse 43, these were the cities: Bezar on the wilderness plateau for the tribe of Reuben, Ramoth in Gilead for the tribe of Gad, Golan in Bashan for the tribe of Manasseh. Verse 44, this is the body of instructions that Moses presented to the Israelites. Verse 45, these are the laws, decrees, and regulations that Moses gave to the people of Israel when they left Egypt. Verse 46, and as they camped in the valley near Baal-peor, east of the Jordan River, this land was formerly occupied by the Amorite under King Sihon, who ruled from Heshbon. But Moses and the Israelites destroyed him and his people when they came up from Egypt. Verse 47, Israel took possession of his land and that of King Og of Bashan, the 2 Amorite kings east of the Jordan River. Verse 48, so Israel conquered the entire area of Aroi at the edge of the Arnon Gog, all the way to Mount Seron, also called Mount Hermon. Verse 49, and they conquered the eastern bank of the Jordan River as far as south as the Dead Sea, below the slope of Pisgah. Amen.